Hi everybody, and thanks for joining me today. So continuing to work on vines and flowers and wall. I am hoping this month to get this second pass done and be starting on the third. And that will also bring me to 25% completed, which I think is doable, hopefully. Yeah, I was hoping for that last month, but life just got in the way, so it did not happen, but that's okay. Like I've said before, I'm not working on deadline, just what gets done is what gets done. Yeah, so we finally had our first touch of snow. Not a lot though, like a couple centimeters, and melted again. So still able to go outside for my walks, which I prefer. I do have a machine, but it's harder, I find, to make myself exercise on a machine than it is going for a walk. Well, for one, if I'm walking away from my house, I'll have to walk all the way back. I kind of can't quit whenever I feel like it, right? So that kind of keeps me motivated, whereas if I have my machine, I can sort of step down whenever I feel like it, and that can make me kind of lazy. So, yeah. But man, I tell you, I do feel the difference. I made the mistake of skipping my walk one day, and yeah, that night I woke up hours before it was time to actually get up and couldn't go back to sleep. So yeah, it does make a big difference. So I've been trying to be consistent with it because yeah, I'm very sensitive to that, I guess. Yeah, I also find my machine is not quite as comfortable as actually walking. It's not a treadmill, they call it a strider, and it's got basically pedals that go back and forth, and just the motion of moving them is not quite the same as walking. So yeah, it does feel a little different, and I find it can get uncomfortable after a while, so yeah, I like to do actual walks as much as possible. But that, yeah, that window's closing as winter comes in. We're gonna have time change soon, which I always whine about. I don't even like this one where you quote unquote gain an hour. Yeah, it messes me up, and then of course, because of that, the sun's gone down when it's time to make dinner, and I find that so depressing. So yeah, I said sort of every year I think, oh, you know, this winter isn't going to be so bad for my depression, and then we have the time change and it's like, oh no, there it is. Yeah, that was what I hoped, but nope. Okay, 317. Yeah, and then I said my son went through a rite of passage around here. He drove away with his block heater cord plugged in, which we have all done once at least. Yeah, here it gets cold enough that you kind of need to have a block heater for your engine block or your car won't start, especially for his, because his is a diesel. So they are even more sensitive to the temperature. But yeah, I told him you have to make it part of your routine in the morning because he has to warm up that truck for about 10 minutes before he can drive. And so I said, when you go out to start it up, to warm it up, like unplug the block heater first. That way you can't drive away with it plugged in. I said, you know, that's how I have to remember things, is I got to do them in a specific order. Otherwise I'll forget. Yeah. Yeah, my husband has driven away with it plugged in a couple of times. And one time his truck was behind mine in the driveway and it actually recoiled. And he said he was just sitting there watching it like, oh no, because he was afraid it was going to hit the back hatch window and smash it, and thankfully it didn't. So, because yeah, those are not cheap to replace. But and then I did it once, but the funny thing is, instead of it pulling out of where it plugs into my car, it actually pulled out of the wall, and I drove all the way with the cord dragging. And somehow I managed to not run over it. And it was still attached, so when I parked and I got out, and it was like, oh, whoops, my car's got a tail. And yeah, I was like, oh, that's why people were looking at me funny while I was driving. I couldn't figure out. I'm like, my tires aren't flat, you know, like, couldn't figure out what people were staring at. And it's like, oh, yeah, because I'm the, yeah, I'm the silly lady driving around with it, with a cord dragging behind her car. Yeah. Yeah, my son doesn't get remote start in his because it's a lot touchier to start up, but yeah, my husband and I do, so it's nice. Yeah, my husband actually has his where it's, he's got an indicator on his key fob, so when he pushes it, if it starts up, it will actually send a message back that it started up. Mine is you sort of have to see it start up or you're not going to know. But yeah, and he can unlock and lock it, and it will send a message telling you whether it's locked or not. Because yeah, we went somewhere the other day and he's like, did I lock the truck? And I said, I remember hearing you lock it. And he pulls out his key fob just to check, because he said, I'm paranoid that I didn't. Yeah, we went to go see a play that one of my husband's coworkers is in. Yeah. Okay, 152. Ooh, pardon me. Yeah, I say I shouldn't come. I don't complain as long as the snow holds off until after Halloween. It's all good. So yeah, ended up being lazy and did not carve a pumpkin this year. Yeah, I just used my plastic light up pumpkin. Well, I think they would have been pretty mushy. So yeah, we had quite a few days that were well below freezing, and then, like I said, they store the pumpkins outside, and if they freeze and thaw, yeah, they're just mush. They look not too bad, but then when you try and cut into it, it basically just collapses. So yeah, it's no good. Yeah, so like I said, I was hoping to get 25% done, but I had life things came up, and also this is a very confetti heavy area. So tons of color changes, as you can probably see in these flowers and vines. Yeah, it's very detailed, so that definitely slowed the pace down. Oh, goodness, got a knot already. There. But yeah, thankfully, I think the wildfires are under control now, because we haven't had smoke in the air for a couple of weeks now, because this summer was, yeah, it was pretty brutal. It was, like they said, the worst one on record since the 80s. Yeah, there were days you couldn't even see across the street. It was nasty. Couldn't go for walks because even though it was warm enough, you don't want to be breathing that in. Yeah. Oh, I think I can hear some ducks out there flying south. Yeah, they took longer this year because it was unseasonably warm for quite a while. Or at least it seemed that way to me. I'm no expert on bird migration, that's for sure. one strand of those two actually stayed in the needle. That will not work. Yeah, there's going to be sort of some areas here that's wall, so that has not quite as much color changes, but these flowers and vines are very, very detailed. Yeah, so I got a little bit of a sore throat this morning, so I might not be as chatty today. That one was already threaded. Okay. Yeah, actually, took me a while to get used to people saying they wanted to hear me talk, because I was always told as a kid I talk too much. Oh dear. Yeah, so this is 550 stitches wide, and this is 440, like right here. So we are getting there. So about 11 more columns, give or take, because of course I don't go straight up and down in columns. So yeah, the only real straight areas I leave are along the edges of the design and along the horizontal edge where I make my pass. Yeah, I think that I counted there will be a total of 9 passes in this project, and this is the second one. So we'll have 7 more to go. So I'm trying not to leave too many threaded because I have so many threads that it's more prone to tangling that way, and I find it's faster to just unthread and rethread than trying to untangle. So it's kind of a balance. Yeah, when I work on areas that have bigger blocks, I'll probably leave all of them threaded because there's fewer, so don't have to worry about them getting tangled. Yeah, that edge is just too fuzzy. There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna have to start thinking about Christmas shopping pretty soon. Because, yeah, I generally order a lot of stuff, so you have to make sure you give it time to arrive. Darn it. Oh, there. Yeah. Ordered my son some new onesie pajamas because he absolutely loves them, and he's outgrowing the ones he's got. So, yeah. So I ordered one that's a shark and one that is Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. And then I'm trying to think, there was a third one. I think it was a fox. Yeah, I'm not sure. I wanted to get a Cookie Monster one, but they didn't have any in the right size. They were pretty cute. Yeah, it had a hood with the little googly eyes on it, but yeah. Yeah, it was funny. One year we gave our son a little Cookie Monster that it would talk when he squeezed his foot and stuff, and you fed him cookies and he'd count them and stuff. And anyway, it was this really low, coarse, you know, his growly kind of voice. And I remember one morning I was sort of half asleep and I keep hearing this and I'm like, I thought it was my husband, you know. It's like, what is he talking about? Why won't he be quiet? And then I kind of look over my shoulder and it's like, no, he's right there. It took me a minute to realize it was the Cookie Monster toy talking. Oh man, it was so funny. I kept hearing this random noise coming from somewhere in the house. It was like this noise, and I was like, what is that? And it would sort of happen once or twice a day, so it wasn't like it was a constant noise that I could follow around. And then over time it started getting more often, and I'm going, okay, well, I think it was coming from my son's room, so I figured it had to be one of his, you know, toys that had batteries in it making sounds. And I thought it kind of sounded like a dinosaur toy roar. And so I picked up this old one that his grandparents gave him. And I thought maybe this one is it. So I take it out to the kitchen to grab a screwdriver and take the batteries out. And I hear it again. And I'm like, well, that came from the room, not from the toy in my hand. So it can't be this one. And because it didn't come at regular intervals, I had to kind of stand there and wait for it to make the sound again and try to follow the sound. And it was every couple of minutes. And yeah, I must have gone through every toy in there, picked up every one that had batteries in it, kind of pushed buttons to see if it would replicate the sound. And then, yeah, I finally found it was a different little dinosaur toy that the way it was lying in the toy bin, another toy was sort of pushing on the button that makes it make a sound, but it wasn't consistent. So it was sort of like when there was a vibration of the furnace kicking on, it would push the button and right. And yeah, but it was funny because then when they came, my husband and son were out at something. When they came home, I said, I finally found what was making that noise, you know. And I said, oh, thank goodness, that was driving me nuts too. Oh, yeah. It was funny too because when I did pick it up and push the button a couple times, it didn't always make the sound because I guess the batteries were sort of half dead. So sometimes it would and sometimes it wouldn't, but I just went, okay, that's it. I'm taking the batteries out of this thing and making sure it's going to be silenced. Oh. I said, yeah, it's a good thing I don't believe in ghosts, or I'd start to wonder if we were being haunted or something. But yeah, it went on for weeks. My husband said he thought it was maybe the fridge making a sound because it kind of sounds sometimes like when the motor stops running. But I said, but it's not coming from the direction of the fridge, you know, so it can't be it. But like I said, because it was so intermittent, I couldn't really follow the sound. So, oh dear. like I've said before, I'm the person with the keen hearing who's always saying, what is that sound? And people are going, what sound? Yeah, my ear humming is almost gone. Comes back every now and then, but it's so faint that I can ignore it, thankfully, because yeah, when it first started, man, it was loud. It was not fun. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird because, like I said, I'd had ear infections before that never did that, but this time they said, well, it depends sort of where it is in your ear. It can mess with the structures in there and cause that. Yeah, he said because because having the ear infection can cause a temporary drop in your hearing, sometimes it kind of tries to compensate and then you end up hearing too much, which is, yeah, was my problem. But yeah, thankfully I don't need to use brown noise to sleep anymore, so. Oh yeah, so I thought I was at 23%, but actually I didn't quite make it. I was at about 22.5% when I was done for the month. Yeah, it's hard to believe that we're coming on to the end of another year. It just flew on by, at least for me, it certainly did. Some fuzzies there. There we go. Yes, I'm not following my strict diagonal. I kind of followed, the leaves sort of made a shape that made it sort of slope outward that way, and I just kind of followed it. I find it easier to follow the shapes the colors make sometimes. Okay, $37.99. Just gonna check the length of this other one here. Yeah, it's not very long. Okay. If it was super long, I might not have added a full-length piece here, but since it's not. Now, this is one of the colors I have on a cone, so the threads are not always the same length as all the others because I kind of have to guesstimate it. Whereas, like I said, with the others, I fold it in half 3 times so that they're all even. But yeah, I'm pulling this off of a cone, so sometimes I accidentally cut them way too long or I cut them a bit shorter. I tried to use a fabric tape measure, but I was still kind of off, so. So yeah, sometimes instead of working in a more skinny downward direction, I sort of end up working a bit more horizontally, like I did here. But yeah, like I said, this is a lot of detail work because I'm not even at 50 stitches yet. If these were bigger blocks of color, I'd probably be closer to 100 by now. Try and see if I can get these last 3 stitches with this piece of thread. It's gonna be tight. But I think I can just manage it. Sweet. Love when it works out like that. Okay, again, I've got 2 threads of this color part. Let's see, that's not very long. Yeah, that's much longer. Okay. Yeah, this is about as far as I'll go, and then I'll keep filling in from the left outwards. Lots of threads needing to be trimmed today. It's a long one, hey? Okay, but I think I'm gonna carry that one more downwards. Yeah. They're both of these threads are pretty long, so. Yeah, so I'm on the last season of Supernatural, and I'm sort of at that point where I want to finish it, but I also don't want to finish it. Because, yeah, once I finish it, then it'll be over, and I'll be sad. Yeah, you only get your first time watching a show once, right? Yeah. I said I do rewatch stuff that I've enjoyed, but, yeah, I mean, you can only experience it for the first time, right? Yeah. Okay, again, I'm going to check this one here. Yeah, that's long enough. So this one I'm just going to tie off then. Yeah. The other thread is closer to those stitches of this color, so it makes more sense to use that one. And I don't need a second thread here, so we'll just tie this one off and save the leftovers for another time. Oh, and another thread of that color is here. This one is super short though. Yeah, with this whole, the writers and actors strikes, it's giving us a chance to catch up on our backlist because there hasn't really been much new stuff this year. Yeah. Yeah, which kind of sucks as a consumer, but I do support people standing up for fair working conditions, so I won't complain too hard. It's going to be a challenge to reach 100 stitches in this hour, I think. This is so many colors. But I always remind myself it'll be worth it in the end. I will be glad that I did it when I am done, and all that detail. All that detail is there. one problem with lots of pin stitches in an area. It's very easy to accidentally pull it back up through. Okay, so I think, yeah, going to be heading over to the left and working out again. So yeah, I kind of filled all this in. Now I'm going to do the same. Yeah, I find especially when it's a lot of detail work, it just sort of stitching more horizontally tends to work better for me than trying to force it to stay to the skinnier diagonals. I know some people also like to make their diagonals 20 stitches wide instead of 10 because of that. So again, I'm just gonna put these threads aside and out of my way for the moment. Yeah, those aren't threaded either, so I'm just gonna put all those there, and then I'm gonna head back into this corner here and start working out again. May need to reset. Yeah, these sort of ended up a little bit tangled up, so I'm just gonna there, get all these threads and just kind of smooth them out. There. Yeah, I know for some people doing this much rethreading is not for them. For me, I don't mind. I can thread pretty quickly now, so it doesn't bother me. But to each their own. Yeah, I know I had one person say that they use a method like mine, but they have only one needle, so they're always rethreading. I thought, wow, you're more dedicated than I am. Yeah, that's why I own multiple needles, so I don't have to do it quite as often. Yeah, it's funny. I was trying to do the math to see if finishing this pass would get me to 25%, and then it was like saying I had to do another 30,000 stitches, and I thought that can't be right, and then realized that I'd done the calculations for it being 2/3 done, not a quarter done. Yeah. That'll definitely change things, especially when you're working on something with, you know, over 300,000 stitches. Yeah. So yeah, that's nearly another 10%, which is over 30,000 stitches. So yeah, definitely will throw your numbers off. I've said before, I am not a math person, that is for sure. Yeah, because I think when I did my calculations to get to quarter done was about another 7,000 stitches in a month. That should be manageable, even with my working on Firefly as well. And even with, I lose some time because figure skating season has started and I can't stitch while I watch that, so. Yeah, it's been interesting watching because it's sort of a new Olympic cycle. Next Winter Olympics isn't until 2026. So a lot of the big names from the last time have retired, gone on to professional skating or coaching or maybe something entirely unrelated to skating. So yeah, it's interesting watching the new faces, the younger athletes starting to try to make a name for themselves. I will miss watching Yuzuru Hanyu though. Yeah, he will go down as one of the greatest of all time. More fuzzies here. So I'm going to tie this one off. So yeah, these were very scattered, so I ended up with three threads of this color, and I really don't need that many anymore. Okay, so rather than going across any further, I think I'm gonna come back to the left again. So yeah, sometimes I go in longer horizontal passes and sometimes I go more vertical. It just kind of depends on the colors and how they fit together. really bright color. Although it ends up surrounded by other colors, which kind of tones it down a bit. But yeah, it's a very bright, like neon-y kind of almost color. Fluorescent almost looking. But yeah, once it's got other colors around it, it looks a little less bright. So it doesn't kind of clash, because you would think it would. It's such a almost eye-searingly bright color. Finally approaching 100 done. Yeah. Now there must have been like 30 colors in this that I used in this session, so yeah. That definitely slowed things down. Okay, finally the 100th stitch. Check this one down here too. Oh, that's even longer. Okay. So yeah, I figured I'm not going to need both of these. Actually, I'm gonna hug that edge there too. Yeah, I apologize, my furnace is really loud. And unfortunately, not much I can do about it out here. We get very cold, so yeah, it's got to kick on quite a lot. Well, not as bad as it used to, yeah. Our house was really not energy efficient when we bought it. Our attic was like R12 when it should have been like R20. And actually, we went and rented a machine and blew insulation into it, and now it's like R40. So yeah, it makes a huge difference. I find especially in the summer too, because there was almost no insulation. When the sun would beat down on it, it would heat up the house like an oven. And now it's been much better. And of course in the winter too, because yeah, when we had it really cold, furnace basically never stopped running, which probably isn't good for it. And I mean, it certainly costs more money. So yeah, I think we did that ourselves, and it cost a lot less than paying someone to do it. But yeah, that was a pain. A whole day of dealing with fiberglass. Not fun. But yeah, like I said, in the end, worth it. And then we also got our energy efficient windows. Oh, I missed crossing something, didn't I? Yes, I did. This one right here. Okay, luckily, it's the one I just parked. Yeah, that is one danger when I'm someone who likes to do a bunch of the bottom legs and then come back and cross them is, yeah, you have to be careful not to miss any. Whereas if you cross as you go, that's certainly less likely to happen. But yeah, I've always stitched sort of doing the bottom legs and then the top legs, so I don't feel like changing that now. Again, that's just a matter of personal preference. Either way works. Goodness. You know, these ends are being a real pest today. There we go. That's sort of the trade-off. There's less bulk on the back when you use pin stitch to finish, but you do end up dealing with more fuzzies trying to come through. So I'm thinking next session I'll probably be working more on the top of this pass. I'm hoping to have this here filled in. We'll see what I manage. Oh, darn. Goodness, that got really twisted there. That happening. Look at that. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's the last one I'm going to get out of that piece of thread there. don't think I've had to use my snag tool this many times in a session in a while. Okay. Okay, I think I'm gonna wrap this up pretty soon. Oh, pardon me. Yeah. Gotta get up and stretch. Get my blood moving. Yeah. Even with all that confetti, over 140 done. I guess this part ended up starting to be fewer colors, so it went a little bit quicker. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you here again another time. All right, thanks, everyone.